Today, we continue to bring you the interviews with each of the candidates running to be the next governor of New Mexico. As of right now, 5 Republicans and 1 Democrat are in the race. Michael Herzenberg sat down with Doña County District Attorney Susana Martinez.
As part of our continuing series interviewing all the gubernatorial candidates for November of 2010, we're joined by Susana Martinez. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Why should our viewers vote for you?
They should vote for me because they really want a different leadership in Santa Fe. We need a desperate change for a better economic environment, honest government, strong leadership, and someone who's willing to make the change, and I'm certainly that person.
What are your priorities? If you get to Santa Fe, you get the job. First, second things you're going to do?
One of the first things that we have to do is to make sure that we keep the businesses that we have here in New Mexico, bring back those that we have lost, and make sure that we downsize our government, and do it all without any corruption or any appearance of impropriety or conflict of interest.
How would you have pushed to fix the state's roughly $500 million shortfall for 2011? Lawmakers did it with a mix of tax increases and budget cuts. How would you have pushed to do it?
Well, the first thing we would have done if I had been governor 7 years ago was not to get where we are today. We have bloated government by over 50%, and that's part of the problem. We should have never been where we are today. And number one, and number two, also decreasing our revenue the way they have with the businesses leaving New Mexico and going to Texas. We're not competitive. And so we could not afford to be where we are today. But taxes is not the answer. It is absolutely not the answer. We've got to cut back the size of government first before we ever start thinking about taxing our citizens some more.
That would have meant some drastic cuts, draconian cuts, but could have meant layoffs of government workers, could have meant more furloughs, salary decreases. Is that something that would have been acceptable to you?
Yes, it would have been acceptable, and this is why. We've grown over 5,000 jobs in New Mexico alone in just 7 years. That is not positive, strong leadership that allows us to grow our economy, and those are the folks, small businesses are the folks that actually develop jobs, not state government.
It's easy to be there for the ribbon cuttings and the happy news, but how do you feel about open government in that if your administration makes a mistake or the media feels they make a mistake, will you be there to answer those tough questions, or will you do what others have done and say, just close the doors and say no comment?
No. You know, as an elected official, I completely understand that you have to answer to the people who elect you and pay your salary. And I have never shut the doors and not answered the tough questions. But keep in mind, there's a difference between making a mistake and committing a crime. And any kind of criminal activity must be brought to the forefront. It must be reported to the proper authorities for investigation and prosecution by those proper authorities. Mistakes, absolutely. Everybody makes those. We're not perfect, but we must answer to the people who elect us.
Which brings me to the next question. As a district attorney, you run an office. Running a government's a big difference, as well as having to deal with lawmakers who all have their own priorities. How has your experience, how will that set you up for this? Has it set you up for this position?
You know, we have been, as the executive of my agency, certainly I have 85 employees. I have a budget that I balance every year. I deal with the legislature every year as far as fighting for laws or fighting against laws. I have to propose my budget every year as well. It has prepared me very well in an understanding of how I have to stay within my budget. You don't have to have your private business to understand you can't spend more than you make. And you also have to have a good understanding that we have to have business that create that revenue so that we can provide services that are necessary, not services of and be all things to all people. We have got to make sure that my experience brings the positive, strong, ethical leadership that people are hungry for. And I think with the last 24 years as a prosecutor, I have that and I can bring it to them.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.